Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna check how to play with Sakura. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So, let's see. Igawa Sakura is a Protect human type character. Protect is a very good trait, it has many supporters which enhance this, but human, there are supporters that enhance human, but there aren't that many. And the kind of strategies that you can do with those are kind of limited. But even so, we're gonna see how good she is. So, now, let's go to the skills. Shadow Shark, the launching attack. You know, it's melee, during normal attacks hold attack and repeat attack. Lift an enemy with a Shadow Shark and jumps to perform a consecutive airborne attack. 1 green reduces cooldown by 20%, 1 blue increases damage by 30%, 1 red adds falling attack at the end of the skill. This is, well, as unimpressive as any other launching skill. It is not bad, but due to super armor being a thing, we cannot take advantage of it. And it's a shame because basically one of the 10 skills that all the characters have is unusable, just cause. There are exceptions, but in most cases that's it. Then we have Nether Dive. Nether Dive is the all red skill. This one is melee, hold evade, a shadow burst strikes the ground, performing an air attack. 1 red knocks down the enemy. 2 red increases damage by 50%. 3 red reduces the cooldown by 30%. Things to take into consideration. The bear is going to deal 2 hits. One when it gets out of the ground, and another one when it smashes the floor with its fist. So the most substantial hit is going to be the second one, just so that you know. It's kind of obvious, but that's it. And this one doesn't look as impressive as other skills that give you damage increase. It doesn't even reach 150 damage increase, and that's because it's on the second effect, not on the third. This one is a pretty unique effect. The cooldown reduction is not normal, and this makes the skill pretty spammable. Not like busted in regards of spammability, but good enough. You use Nether Dive, 2 other skills, and then you use Nether Dive again, and you repeat the process. It is just fast enough to spam it to some degree. Then Shadow Spin. Shadow Spin is melee and range, and it's a dash attack. Perform a charge attack by swinging the blade widely with an approach. So, this works on the main supporter. If it's a main green, makes a vortex of shadows and performs a consecutive attack. You're going to deal 2 hits if you go green, which it's hyper offensive. It's nice on green to do that. Blue restores HP by 5% of given damage. That's amazing, and it's probably the best color you can use with this skill. And main red is going to increase particle charge by 2%, which is probably the weakest one with this skill. It's splashable. It's very good for mixed builds, especially if you have the main blue. And let's go to the next one. Shadow Cleave. Shadow Cleave is going to be a melee attack. It's a hold attack. Approaches the enemy and performs a consecutive attack by revolving. With 1 blue, reduces damage taken by 50% during the attack. With 2 blue, adds 2 additional spins. And with 3 blue, increases damage by 165%. So, yeah, the damage reduction is great because you are locked in place. You're going to go after the enemies if they move, but you do not decide when to interrupt this. To interrupt this, you need the limited weapon from the character pack, but I don't have it, so I cannot show you the gameplay on that kind of build. This has clear weaknesses because it locks you in place. You only want to use it against an enemy with super armor if they're about to break the super armor or the super armor is broken. And it deals a substantial amount of damage, and it's very good, but it's risky and not it's not something that you just use whenever it's up. Keep that in mind. Shadow Tangle. Shadow Tangle immediately before an attack, evade. So it's a perfect evade. Binding enemies with shadow thorns for 4 seconds and snare them during an extreme dodge. So you're going to snare the enemy for 4 seconds, and depending on the color, 2 green are going to reduce the skill cooldown, which is pretty effective. 2 blue, particle charge by 3%, which is not that great, and 2 red, increase damage against snare enemies by 20%. This looks good, but it isn't that good because it's only 4 seconds, and some animation of skills take a long time, so you don't take full advantage of it. Depending if you have to wait a little bit on the cooldown, you're going to waste part of it on the animation, and maybe with Nether Depth you're not going to get the benefit on the second hit. So be careful when you use it on red. You have to be very mindful of your cooldown. Shadow Claw. Shadow Claw is a melee attack, it's a dash attack, and that means you cannot equip it along with Shadow Spin. So, take Shadow Bear. The Shadow Bear strikes hard, performing an area attack. 1 green, particle charges by 2%. 2 green, add 1 additional attack and knock back the enemy. And 3 green increases critical damage by 270%. So, this is probably the strongest pure color skill, and it's going to deal a massive amount of damage. You see the bear, it's doing a slash with its left hand. Well, the additional attack is going to make the bear hit with the right hand after that. It is pretty good. It deals a ton of damage, trust me. And the good thing is that the animation is pretty short, so you can just move after dealing damage. Then, Shadow Fling. Shadow Fling is a range attack and a hold evade. Unfortunately, this is the triple color skill for any color, but triple anyway. So, jump and perform a range attack by throwing Shadow Blades. Add 2 additional attacks when a slot effect is applied. So, the effects that these provide are pretty good for the most part, but that's kind of also the problem because you are forced to go pure instead of mix. So, 3 green, reduce the enemy's speed by 30% for 15 seconds. 3 blue, reduce the enemy's damage by 30% for 15 seconds. Both effects are great, long duration, good percentage. And consider this, on blue, most of the builds are defensive, so it really helps out for a defensive build, the damage reduction on the enemy. And lastly, 3 red, knock down the enemy. This is the worst. You don't want to use this, especially when you're facing enemies with super armor, unless you're doing something like break super armor. That's an exception. Then, Dual Edge Fury. This is the basic enhancer. It's a melee attack. It's gonna remain the same. By fast strikes of dual wielding swords, enhances the normal attacks. Increase damage by 10%, increase damage by an additional 20%, and increase particle charge amount by 50%. These are pretty good. Usually you're going to always use your basic attacks, and you feel like they don't interrupt you as much with the basic enhancer, and that you deal more hits. And it does help out with particle charge. If not, you're gonna feel like your basics are kind of weak-ish, so you can use this on most builds. It's a splashable skill. And the same can be said about Shadow Tangle. Then we have Shadow Shift. Shadow Shift is a double dash, teleports behind the enemy's back through the shadow. With 2 green, increases critical rate by 10% for 5 seconds, which is okay, especially for critical builds, but it loses effectiveness the more you progress in the game, the more you enchant your weapons, your magatamas, and such. So, 2 blue, reduce damage taken by 25% for 7 seconds. So, it is longer, the duration is longer than the cooldown, so it's a pretty good skill for defensive builds, if you want to. Though, it's kind of counterproductive because you get in the back of the enemy, And unless you are the only enemy, maybe they don't aggro you, so keep that in mind. And 2 red. Increases damage by 10% for 5 seconds. That's also great. Pretty good skill. It's splashable again, like Shadow Tangle, the basic enhancer. This one is great. And then we get to the awakening skill, Shadow Phantom. Immediately before enemy attack, dodge. So similar to Shadow Spin and Shadow Claw, Shadow Tangle and Shadow Phantom cannot be used on the same set, on the same build. It's a perfect evade that summons a Shadow Bird that attacks the enemy automatically for 10 seconds during the extreme dodge. So this one is pretty bad, unfortunately. Let me explain you a little bit of how this works. With 2 green, summons a Shadow Spider, which is going to attack like a mob, and it's going to inflict a slow on the enemy. It's nice to debuff the enemy, but it is not aggressive enough. Then we have 2 blue, summons a Shadow Toad. The Shadow Toad is probably the nicest of the bunch, because the Toad is going to jump twice, and then it's going to launch a ball, not bubble, a ball of water. Yeah, and that's going to interrupt the actions. All of those attacks interrupt the actions of the enemy as long as they don't have super armor. That's the problem. If the enemy has super armor, then this is not as great. Then we have 2 red. Increases the Shadow Burst damage. In my opinion, I don't think it is that great. Because the damage is not as impressive as something like the pure skills, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I didn't see it clearly. I didn't see how much damage it did because it wasn't critting to begin with. So yeah, this one I do not recommend that you use, but that depends on what you want. It is pretty good at the start of the game when you're having troubles with events, especially Shadow Toad, but that's up to you. Now, what are we going to be doing? We're going to do a couple builds, and we're going to start with this green. This green is going to focus on debuffing the enemies, which is kind of oppressive in its own way. So, we're going to use Twinkle Riser, because this gives my normal attacks a chance to inflict disarm, which is pretty good. And it also increases the damage with familiars, and I can summon a familiar, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to go full crit, and this one too. 4 out of 5. The other one is 5 out of 5. Plus 14, plus 13. Critical Magatamas, critical damage effect. Let's see. The next one. We're going to use Shadow Tangle to inflict a debuff and gain a little bit of control over the enemy. Shadow Fling to inflict a debuff and be very oppressive, and Dual Edge Flurry because I'm using Twinkle Riser. If you're not using Twinkle Riser, you can use something different like Shadow Claw, for example. So for supporters, I have first of all Ichika. Ichika is going to help me with my basic attacks, and it's going to give me defense because I'm also using Heaviko. Heaviko, whenever I deal damage to an enemy that has a debuff, it's going to inflict another debuff, the poison debuff, which is going to help me with consistent damage and just to keep the enemy's debuff. And lastly, I'm going to use Nano because she's going to help out both sides of the spectrum. She's going to increase the critical damage of melee attacks and the damage of range attacks. So since I go mix with this melee and this range, it is perfect. Basically, I just have one offensive skill. The other one is supportive and the other one is the basic enhancer. So yeah, I'm gonna rely a lot on the basic enhancer. I'm gonna do floor 100. I already beat this once, but it is risky because I don't have HP recovery. But the debuffs are so oppressive that I think I can manage. Yeah, because I slow the enemy, I disarm them, I make them unable to move. I also deal damage constantly with the poison. So yeah, as you can see, it is very oppressive on the enemy. I have barely taken damage. There we go. Yeah, I really like this build, but this is better used on solo content. I mean, you could use this on VR if you have a healer. Without a healer, it is pretty risky, and I do not recommend doing that. Okay. Slow. There. Poison. Just a little bit more, and I can do the ultimate to clear the mobs. And I can focus on Edwin, which is not going to attack. Come on, do something. Yes. Nice. Yeah, I really love this build. It is pretty fun to play because the enemy is going to be afflicted by something, by some kind of debuff all the time. There. And I do this one. And this one. Nice. As you can see, I'm dealing a ton of damage. Well, not a ton of damage. It's not like I erase them. I erase him. But it is just consistent damage. And Edwin is not able to do anything about it. He's just too slow, or he's interrupted, or anything. Nice. This is gonna be great. I'm first going to use the skills. First I evade, then I do this one, and after hitting, I'm going to use the ultimate. And then I'm going to repeat the skill. Nice. Evade. You see? Pretty easy. She's just so oppressive. I really like that about this build. Yes, just move a little bit, and then they cannot move. Okay, there. Let's see if I can disarm him. Okay, perfect. Oh! Those two are behind Edwin. Okay, I just move. Oh! Perfect. One thing to take into consideration, guys, just so that you know, the snare isn't a stop. They are still doing. I have never seen Edwin do that. They are still able to attack in that position, so be very careful with what the enemy is able to do in front of you, because you're going to go in front of the enemy to deal damage. So if they still have super armor and they are not stunned, you may get some big hits. Even though they look defenseless, they are not. Now, we're gonna go with the aggressive one. That was oppressive, because the enemy doesn't have has a ton of debuffs. But this one is just to destroy the enemy. I'm gonna use the Momochi weapon, because I'm going to crit a lot. This is a critical build. So, for this one, Shadow Claw, Shadow Tangle, Shadow Shift. You can change Shadow Shift for whatever you want. I could use Shadow Fling, I could use the basic enhancer, or Shadow Spin, whichever is fine. But the ones that you do want are Shadow Tangle and Shadow Claw. For this, I'm simply going to be using critical supporters, Kowaru, Suruga, and Akane all max out. Plus 12, plus 14, plus 13, as you can see. So, let's go with this one. Yeah, this is way easier than the last one because it deals an absurd amount of damage. So, I just want the enemies to gather. And then if I'm able to, there. Perfect. Yeah, unfortunately, if you don't gather all the enemies like quickly, you're going to have to wait for your cooldowns. That's the only disadvantage about this. So, like that. And look how much damage I did to Edwin! Okay. Oh no! I did it on the wrong enemy. Shadow shift? I'm confused. Okay, perfect. 2 shadow claws and I destroyed Edwin. As you can see, it is really strong. Yeah, green is her best color, that's it. I mean, for hyper damage, that is. Because as you can see, I don't have HP recovery, which is very risky. But as long as I destroy the enemy before they can do anything, it doesn't really matter, right? And thanks to Shadow Tangle, I'm able to just avoid damage by locking the enemy in place. Okay, just one and... Okay. Come on. I'm not gonna use the ultimate. Like that. And this. And for the mobs, yes. I don't care about the mobs. I just wanted to defeat the boss with my skills. Because it is that busted. Yeah, Sakura is probably... I mean, all the characters are strong in their own way. But if you want damage, Sakura is probably the best one for that. Yeah, especially on green. Now, let's see. The next one is going to be the Pure Red. Pure Red, okay. There's some things to take into consideration. If you don't use Shadow Tangle, don't use Susune. Because basically there's no way that you're going to inflict any kind of debuff with her red if you don't have Shadow Tangle. It's the only skill that inflicts a debuff. But I also have the weapon. If you have the weapon, the Momochi weapon, then it's okay to equip Susune or Kirara. So I'm gonna go with Baretta, with Yukina, and Susune, as you can see. So for this, there's other options depending on what you do. But there is not that many skills that give you... I mean, there are no skills that give you HP recovery. So having Susune is super important. Or if not, using an invincibility supporter like Spica. Spica is going to help you out with critical rate for melee attacks, which we're gonna use melee attacks. As you can see, I'm using Nether Dive, obviously, Shadow Tangle, and Shadow Shift. So you want to Shadow Shift, Shadow Tangle, and then Nether Dive. That's the combo. So yeah, the problem is that the AoE is not like immense. It's good, but it's not like that big. Let's see. So 1 and 2. Okay. I take this. And there's the combo. Perfect. Yeah, it's good damage. I won't deny. But first we have to wait for the enemy to be able to move. And then we teleport and we... Oh, come on. They start doing the town when I do the teleport. Really? Okay. This and this and... like that. Perfect. But as you see, the damage is not as big as the previous build. That's something to take into consideration. It is good for dealing with waves of enemies because of the AoE and the spam ability of it. But I wouldn't recommend that you rely on this for the most damage. Okay. Let's see. There. Oh, come on. Okay. 1, 2, and... Oh, it didn't crit. I hate when it doesn't crit because the damage is very different when it does. Nice. There we go. So yeah, similar to the other ones, I don't have that much HP recovery, but fortunately, I do have Susune. Come on. 1, 2, 3. Nice damage. Susune. Yeah, Susune is going to help out a lot. One. And... oops. Wrong direction. Oh, he just needed the basic attack. I see. Come on. There. Oh, no criticals. That's bad. Yeah, basically I'm just fishing for my skill. For the right moment to use it, I mean. Nice. And I can use the ultimate now. And I could have used Susune after that, but everyone is done, so there. Yeah, red, I mean, it's supposed to be aggressive, but it doesn't feel as effective as green because of the damage multiplier. I do appreciate a lot the cooldown reduction, but I think that they needed to buff this a little bit more, like 100% damage increase, 150 like usual. I don't know. Let's see. The next one is going to be blue. the blue font. Okay, so this one, blue is kind of interesting due to the supporters that we have. So let's see. We're gonna use Shadow Fling to reduce the attack. So we're going semi-defensive. We're going to use Shadow Tangle. We're going to use Shadow Spin. So I have HP recovery. This one is not as strong, so I'm going to reduce the floor to 75. But not because I cannot do this floor, it's just that I don't want to take forever to beat it. Because it is good. Since we're using... we're going defensive, let me explain this build. Kaito is going to ensnare the enemy. And I'm also going to ensnare the enemy with not Shadow Speed, with Shadow Tangle. So I'm going to have a lot of control over the enemy. I'm also going to use Nana to reduce the damage taken. And I'm going to use Lilim to increase my own damage. You can substitute Lilim in particular for something else defensive like Akina, like Sakura, whatever you want that helps you out in the specific scenario that you're facing. I may show you, I mean I can, but it is not the best. Yeah, I will, but it is not my favorite. There's a build that I want to show you, but I don't have enough copies. That's the thing. So yeah, for these two, we're going to go to 75. Yep, here. So this is kind of just waiting for the right moment to attack. So I do this. And the blue skill is great because it's also going to reduce the damage from the enemy. And look at the amount of HP that I heal with that skill. It's just great. And yeah, the enemy is not able to move and go after me. That's great. That's why we use this build. Because we have two kinds of a snare. And that's very good. There. Nice. Okay. They interrupted my skill. That happens. But as you can see, even though I deal damage, yes, it's not like explosive damage. This is a control strategy after all. And I have sustain, I have damage reduction. So they are not going to do anything. This is kind of the build that you put in a BR for Sakura to be a supporter. But it also depends what you're facing. Like you, Queen Arachne, this is not a good strategy because she has cooldown reduction. No. Debuff duration reduction. Yeah, so she is not going to be debuffed as long. And her snare is only 4 seconds, so keep that in mind. There. I move. I use the ultimate. Damage. Perfect. Yeah, the HP recovery is just busted with her. I really like it. Shadow Fling. I haven't used Shadow Fling. I thought it was the third skill. And as you can see, some enemies can move even if they are ensnared. The ones that have tracking attacks, like Sakura. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, and with this HP recovery, they are not going to kill me ever. And also thanks to the damage reduction that I have, it's just impossible for them. But imagine if I was facing Edwin. It would have taken a long time because I don't have aggressive supporters. I mean, you can even go with something more aggressive with this build because of the HP recovery. Preferably, you go with something that provides both damage and damage reduction. But there aren't that many options on blue like that. There are some, but not the ones that we have are not super effective, like Saya and Fuyumi. Perfect. Okay, just Shadow Fling and... Oh, come on, really? There. Nice. So, let me check, because I have two more builds. The mixed build is kind of a generic build that you can use with any combination, particularly with a blue main, because it is not as easy to make mixed builds with Sakura. So, the last one, we're gonna test it in this same level. We're gonna use Noah, Sakura, and Lilim. And we're gonna use Shadow Tangle, yes. Shadow Spin, yes. And Shadow Fling I changed for Shadow Cleave. So what's the problem here? These supporters are not S level 5 or S level 4 or S level 3 at least. They are both of them S level 2. This increases damage against snare enemies, and I'm able to snare enemies. This also reduces damage taken from snare enemies, which is great, because they're not stunned. And this one, it says stomp all enemies in the area, restore HP. Ah yeah, this one. Character skill restore HP by 2% of damage dealt, and snare all enemies for 6 seconds. Apply every 15 seconds. That one is good, but it is just... it doesn't say for how long they are snared. I gotta check that, but it is not that they're gonna be nerfed all the 15 seconds, maybe 4 seconds like Sakura's skill. So keep that in mind. It is not like super consistent. You do need a character who naturally ensnares the enemy, and that's why I'm using this with Sakura. If not, this doesn't give as much value. It does give a lot of value, but it's better for characters with that naturally snares the enemy, or teams that have some kind of snare. Umbra Sakura increases damage to snare enemies. It's the same. It's just a generic damage increase. I could substitute this with any other kind of damage increase, like, for example, Arabella. And Lilim, Lilim is good. So, yeah. Let's test this. There's advantages to using Noah, in particular the HP recovery. It gives consistency. So, I just move and shred. You see? It is pretty nice. Nice. Yeah, as long as the enemy is snare, I do deal a nice amount of damage. For real? There. And it's pretty nice that sometimes after my initial snares, well, this... Well, what? No! I got confused, like, the thing didn't go out. That was weird. I was like, the snare is lasting long. But no, it was just the effect. There. Yeah, if you place the enemies in the right spot and you use the spin, it's gonna be very deadly. Okay, fortunately, due to the amount of damage that this deals, it can be devastating for the enemy's super armor due to the amount of multi-hit and damage. So that's the value in this skill, but you may get interrupted depending on the enemy. Be careful. Let's see. Oh, come on. Well. Okay, one more time. Come on. Nice. Sakura down. Rinko down. Let's see. Yeah, you see? Interrupted because of these attacks. That's what I wanted to show you. Like, you have to be careful. Really, I hate Yukikaze as an enemy. Like, always launching those attacks that have knockback. Would you? There. And you see how my Shadow Spin also heals me thanks to Noah? That's good. That's really, really good. So yeah, this is a nice build, but you do need better levels than mine. Preferably for challenging content. And I mean, Sakura isn't the best, because I think that at max this is going to give like 30%. Yeah, probably a 30%. So, yeah, you can substitute it for something else. It's just an option if you have her. Lastly, we're going to check the mix one. The mix one is... how can I say it? Oh, wait. Ah, no, yes, it's mixed. So for mixed, I'm going to use the Christmas custom. In the fourth slot, look at this. Look at this. That's the difference. If you haven't noticed, that's why you want to use the fourth one. So, let's see. We're going to be using Lilim because she's great. That's all. Good for support, no, protect type characters. Then we're going to use the super generic Suruga and Kaoru. Super great. Nice. So what are we going to use? Shadow Spin, no debate, obviously. And we're going to use Dual Edge Flurry, the basic enhancer, and Shadow Tangle, yeah. So low cooldown, HP recovery, basic attacks. Okay, that's kind of it. Let me elaborate on this. You can use this on red too. You can go to red and one blue. But to be honest, the benefits, the other effects on Shadow Spin aren't good enough to go with a different kind of main. And these ones, these skills, some pure color skills like to go mix, they give enough value on mixed builds, but these do not. Shadow Shark is terrible, so we are discarding 4 skills and we have to move around with everything else. So Shadow Spin, even though it's 3 possibilities, it's basically only one, which is blue. Shadow Phantom, it's not like ideal. I've said so before. I'm not going to show you, but this is just like not good enough for using a skill slot. Shadow Shift is splashable. If you want to increase your critical rate, use it. If you want to increase your damage, use it. And Shadow Fling you cannot use. That's 5 skills that you cannot use because this is pure and it doesn't give value if it's not pure. So yeah, basically you can change these two for 2 red and that's the build. And this is going to be the same. So yeah, there's not that many options for mixed builds for Sakura. I'm going to do this on 100 because she can, I have done it. I mean, it's fairly simple when you have HP recovery. But I do have to admit, this is a kind of control strategy that doesn't offer damage, it has sustain. It's kind of the thing with this. You're gonna take some time to beat the enemies, but it is consistent. That's the advantage. As you can see, it is good enough. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, and especially with this weapon because I'm creating a lot in this kind of content. Oh, did I deal damage? I mean, I healed, but I didn't see myself dealing damage. Well, in any case. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Another good thing about this strategy is that it allows you to charge your particles fast enough. So even if there are a bunch of mobs, I mean it's not fast enough like spammable, but you with the basic enhancer you have more particle charge and you will be able to use your ultimate to clear the mobs. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, HP recovery, guys. HP recovery. That's the name of the game. I hate confusion. Okay, I have to move. Like, how did I deal damage to that enemy? What's up with that? Now, I don't want to use my ultimate because I already dealt with the mobs. I'm gonna keep it for the next wave. Okay, nice. There. No, 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 no. Confusion. Nice. Done. Perfect. I can just expand my basics and almost done. Perfect. So I start, yeah, I don't care about the skill cooldown. I'm not gonna use a skill because I don't need it. They don't have a good AoE. So I start with this. Evade. Doesn't really matter as long as I hit the right enemy. Double Beyblade, I see. Nice. Overall is very annoying as an enemy because she repositions you with her grab. My god. I never noticed that up until today. I mean, I usually defeat her very quickly. That talks a lot about Sakura, right? Let's see. Come on. Nice. HP recovery. And skill. There. As you can see, this skill does deal a significant amount of damage. At least significant enough to accelerate the battle. But it is not the kind of a skill that clear waves or breaks the super armor easily. Come on, let me. There. Nice. Okay, just one more push and there. Nice, nice, nice. So yeah, mixed builds with Sakura are not as easy because most of her skills you don't want to use on mixed builds or you don't want to use at all. Like, obviously the 4 pure color, the launching attack, that's another one. The awakening skill, that's another one. And that leaves you with 4 options to do combinations, which is kind of narrow, you see? And you always want to go with blue so that you have HP recovery because the other skills are not going to carry you through the build. So you do need the HP recovery. So you're locked to combining this with these 3. That's unfortunate for Sakura, for her mixed builds, but okay. I mean, you can just not follow my advice and go with these ones and everything that I say you shouldn't, but that's up to you. I wouldn't. Now, very quickly, there's one more build, but I have done a dedicated video for that. If you want to check it, it's the invincibility build with Torajiro. Look for Torajiro and you're gonna find the video. So let's check Sakura's weapons. I go to collection, to weapon, to Sakura. So let's check. There are some noticeable SR weapons. First one is Lionheart. Lionheart, when you defeat an enemy, the enemy gets a 25% chance, that becomes 50 by the way, to drop an item called Valiant Heart when you kill the enemy, as I said, and picking up the Valiant Heart makes you invincible for 10 seconds. That's pretty good, especially if you pair it with Torajiro, but it's an SR weapon, so you have one less Magatam slot and SR weapon stats, so it is not as great, especially in stages where the mobs are very chunky or stages that don't have mobs, like against Queen Kanaloa and against what's the other one? Yes, Mass Taimanin. This is not a good weapon. It's usable on Queen Arachne and what's the other one? Yes, the WS squad. LWS squad. So yeah, this one is also appreciated, especially for builds that don't have HP recovery. Again, it's an extra weapon, but it gives you HP restoration of 1% of the damage dealt with the skills. I mean, it becomes 2%, but it is significant enough to get HP recovery when you cannot. So that's a good thing. If you want it for your red builds, it's fine. We have the Sakura weapon, the whale weapons, so no. This one. This is the first weapon that she got. It's Phantom Knife. It's pretty bad. Increases critical damage by 2% for 8 seconds during attacks. Stack up to 50 times. Loses all the stack upon being attacked. That's the problem. If it didn't have that second part, it would be a good weapon, because it would give you a maximum of 100% critical damage. But Sakura has T-Rex arm syndrome, so she's most likely going to get hit and lose the stacks. Remove all the stacks. Perform an area attack of 180 plus 8% per stack. Not great. I mean, it's a weapon that you can use, and that's about it. The snake weapons. The snake weapons are actually usable. Asagi Mania showed us. If you want to check the videos of Asagi Mania, he's a great content creator, and he shows that there are specific builds, but they are like very taxing. You do need specific supporters to spam ultimates on BR, and that's okay. That's cool, but I wouldn't recommend this for most people. And it also really depends on the character. So don't try it. Oops. Don't try it just because I said so. Like, research a little bit. We have Yamata no Orochi. Yamata no Orochi is going to increase normal attack damage against snare enemies by 15%. That goes up to 30%. And normal attack deals 24. That goes to 48% damage against random enemies. So that's very odd, the way they say that. But this is actually a good weapon for Sakura. Sakura in particular, because she snares the enemies. So yeah, maybe you do want to get this one and use it, especially if you focus on a snare build. Then we have the butterfly weapon. Excellent weapon. Sakura, as you saw, likes her basics a lot. So using this on Sakura is going to increase your speed. You know it increases speed by 10%, 20% when max out, increases critical damage by 1%, 2% when max out for 8 seconds whenever you attack the enemy, stack up to 50%, loses all the stack upon being attacked. But JC, that's basically the same as this one. Well, no. You have speed increase, and a speed increase also increases your mobility. Not just the attack, it's not attack speed increase, it is speed increase. So that means that it's easier for you to evade. Even with the T-Rex syndrome, this is really busted. So do take advantage of this. We have the PvP weapons, of course. We have the package weapon that gives you super armor damage against super armor, and the limited one. Shadow Spin skill makes additional. Yeah, it says Shadow Spin. Let me check that. Because I remember that one time I checked it and it was incorrect description. Let's see. Shadow Spin. Yeah, it's not Shadow Spin, if I'm not mistaken. It's Shadow Cleave, as far as I know. So yeah, because this one is the one that does multi-hits. This one do multi-hit, but only on green. So yeah, it is Shadow Cleave. Let's go back. So we're gonna continue reading. And Gremory, my god, if I'm correct and that's the effect, please change the weapon, god. Like, how long does it have to? Is it gonna take for Gremory to correct that, god? So yeah, Shadow Cleave skill makes an additional spin attack. Each spin uses 14% of particles. No, this is wrong in other levels. So if I need to say it properly, it'd be something like Shadow Cleave makes additional attacks. Each additional spin uses 14% of particles. Dodge to cancel. Yeah, that's more like it. Like, this skill was implemented back in the day when translations were very rough. They still are kind of rough around the edges in some ways, but um, yeah. Well, this one is for the blue one, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see, I don't have it, but I kind of remember. This one is terrible. Don't use it. Grant one stack whenever you use a skill. Stack up to 100 times, last 30 seconds. Remove all the stack. Perform a range attack of 220% plus 5% per stack. This is not good because we don't have an infinite mode, as usual. The Momochi weapons, they are like generic good. Each critical hit increases damage dealt to enemies to the target by 4%, 8% when maxed out for 7 seconds. Stack up to 5 times. Increases your critical rate by 18% for 12 seconds. So yeah. Then we have the conch knife. Conch? That sounds so weird. I mean, okay. Increases particle charge from attacks by 75%. That's 150%. It is basically the snake weapon, but better because it has better stats. Usually. I think there are exceptions, but usually that's the case. Let's see. Summon 5 water balloons. Each performs a range attack of 580% damage that knock back the enemy. The active is terrible. The passive is very usable. Because if I said that the snake weapons were usable, then this is way better. This Twinkle Riser, God, one of the best weapons for Sakura. This was a seasonal weapon. It was given on a campaign. It is difficult to get nowadays. Gregory needs to do something about that. And you can get one copy on the pack of Halloween Sakura. So normal. Oops, that was close. Normal attacks. Normal attack makes an enemy unable to attack. Disarm the enemy for 5 seconds, and familiar damage is increased by 20%. Applied every 10 seconds. So the familiar damage is nice when you try to use the familiars, yes. But the thing is, they try to sell the idea that Sakura uses a lot of familiars. But I try to equip a supporter that increases familiar damage and deal damage with the red skill and the green skill, and they didn't deal extra damage even though you summon the bear. So maybe if Grimoire to do some adjustments to that, and the skills that actually summon familiars do get damage increased, that would be like more. It would increase the effectiveness of Sakura with some supporters and this weapon. And then active, summon a ghost for 8 seconds, up to 1 ghost. Okay, so you cannot have multiple ghosts. That's what they want to say. Let's see. This one is the VR weapon. Increases speed of shadow beast summoned by Shadow Phantom by 40% when maxed out. Increases damage against humans by 40% when maxed out. Reduces damage taken from humans by 40% when maxed out. So let me explain. This only works for Sakura. That's something important to take into consideration. Shadow Phantom. The only one that I see like with good value would be the bear, maybe, because you attack faster in those 10 seconds. I mean, I prefer the spider because it does slow, but Sakura doesn't have a slow on her kit to enhance that and to be oppressive. So yeah, it's not great. In any case, the Berserker weapon. Increase damage dealt with ultimate by 50% when maxed out. When HP is under 20%, go into Berserk mode for 10 seconds. Berserk mode increases the speed by 18%, increases damage dealt to all enemies by 18%, and damage taken from all enemies by, not 18, 16%. All of those were 16%. Heal 25% of lost HP when the Berserk mode ends. Activates every 25 seconds. So yeah, I mean, nice concept, bad implementation in my opinion. I don't see this being that great. Sakura Yukikase and Asagi have this weapon, and all the characters who share the weapon. But I still have the tickets. I haven't claimed them. I don't even know which one I should take. I do not recommend this weapon. And that's it. The other weapons are for Heaviko, so we are not going to analyze them because these are just beat stick. You see this icon? That means that it only applies the effect with Heaviko. The same goes with this one and this one. So yeah. In any case, let's give my final comments on this character. Where are you, Sakura? Here. Sakura. What can I say about her? I mean, she's one of the first characters that you're going to get, probably because she's cheap, number one. Number two, you get one of the three, Sakura, Yukikase, or Asagi, given to you for free. But she isn't great for challenging content. Especially VR. I show you that you can use her on VR. Well, I didn't show you, but there's certainly that build that we use, that I mentioned that could be used on VR, the one that inflicts a ton of debuffs, and she can also go with the blue one, with basically this build and this build. Those two could be used on VR, but they are not the greatest. Just keep that in mind. She, with the T-Rex syndrome and the amount of damage that enemies deal on VR, this is not a great character for VR. Her best build is definitely the green one, this build, the one that uses Shadow Claw, because Shadow Claw is busted. It's really good if you're going to start and you get Kaworu and you want to farm, because she's going to destroy the enemies quickly. Unfortunately, she doesn't have HP recovery, that's the downside. But the moment you have your SR weapon level out, your UR weapon max level, you have your Megatamas, she's going to be able to quickly beat the stages if you have a couple more green supporters that increase her damage. So would I recommend that you get her? Actually no. She's very simplistic. She's not that useful. Shadow Tangle, while nice, because the enemy is not going to move, and that's there are some exceptions to this, as you saw, like enemies that teleports do move, even if they are snared. So yeah, that's what she's supposed to provide, and even then it has weaknesses, and the fact that the enemy hits you when they are snared is not great, because with T-Rex syndrome you need to get near to the enemy to attack. So we do have some gaps between the enemy attacking us, and we can take that advantage to wait for the cooldown, but I strongly suggest that you don't get Sakura at the beginning of the game. I mean, as I mentioned, she can become very explosive, but it takes a lot of effort to actually level up these skills, these stats, so that she becomes effective and that you get the supporters, the weapon, everything else level up. Like, if you want to use her after your first character, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, sorry Sakura, you're just not strong enough. She desperately needs buffs that provide her with utility. That's the main issue. Or a buff to Snare, that would also be nice. Like asking for it to be mind control, it would be busted, but definitely it could also have a slow so that it's easier to evade those attacks when the enemy isn't moving. So yep, that's about it. I hope you liked the video. Tell me in the comments what you think about Sakura. Do you think she's better than I mentioned? Do you think she's really that bad? Do you think she has a niche? And if you think so, please let us know in the comments. And I'll be seeing you next time. Bye!